Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we're looking at 9 games here on Thursday, although one of them is going to be starting very soon a Paris, as the Pacers and Spurs are going to be in France for this game, back on Wemby's home soil. So we're going to skip that one, get to everything that's coming later in the day for you guys. We've got best bets in this episode with some sides and totals looks for you, as well as another episode up with player props, which has all player props for you guys as well. So make sure you are subscribed to that page and continue to follow along, as both episodes are coming out each and every weekday this season. Nate, let's go ahead and run right into your first play here for Thursday.
Yeah, I'm looking at Celtics team total again. I mean, we took it against Orlando, and now it's a little bit lower. I mean, granted, on the road at the Lakers, but 111.5. I don't know why the Lakers defense would get more respect than Orlando. And it's the same kind of situation where the Celtics are kind of in that prove it mode. They're in that bounce back mode after the embarrassment in Toronto. 120 a game, 121 offensive rating, hitting 18 threes. And this is their first chance to atone for their embarrassment to the Lakers last February, which, if you guys remember, lost to like no starters for the Lakers in February, proceeded to win about 14 straight games. I'm looking at the game log right now. Only went below 111 once in that span, got to 130 several times, just absolutely annihilating people. The Celtics also do this when they go on the West Coast sometimes the last couple years, like before COVID shut things down. Even I remember Jason Tatum suddenly looked like the best player in the world on the West Coast. They like playing on the road. They like kind of coming together on these long road trips. It was kind of a everybody sits. I mean, on both sides last night. It was Derrick Jones Jr. going off for the Clippers. It wasn't like a real game. Like, this isn't like a true back-to-back spot. Zinger Drew should be back. Horford probably plays. Maybe White or one of the Jays sits, but I still like their offense to keep humming. That's why I'm thinking offense more than them to cover 5. But once you see that final injury report, I think they could easily beat this Lakers team down. I mean, the Lakers benefited from a pretty soft schedule lately. But you look at, again, I do my self filter, tomato can filter. They've allowed 118 points per game to their last 7 opponents that are not tomato cans. The one under was Atlanta, shooting 6 for 34 from 3. And the Celtics are just not going to do that. They might be a little variant, but I mean, that you'll take those odds, right? And they're getting absolutely roasted by assisted field goals. The Lakers all season, 4th highest rate at home. It's because all they really have is Anthony Davis. And once you break down your initial defender, you just pass around him. You get a good look. They've allowed 30 a game to Eastern Conference teams, including some tomato cans, but also some elite teams. And their last 3 at home, they have a nice 104 defensive rating against Washington, Brooklyn, and the shit show that is Miami. So, like, just don't tell me the Lakers are a good defense now. Like, I think the Celtics are totally poised to kick the shit out of them. I mean, 121 a game before that embarrassment last February. 30 free throw attempts. They didn't even shoot well from 3. And for what it's worth, this is the 300th historic meeting between these franchises. So a little extra incentive to come out with a strong effort.
Okay, the milestone marker. Yeah, don't tell me the Lakers are good either. I don't really want to go down that road with anybody. I'm surprised. I guess because we saw 3 guys sit last night with Papa Al, KP, and Drew. This is still 5, I guess, for some reason. Like, should this not be 8.5 on the road? I think neutral court between these two teams is about 7 points. And then if I think you add, you want to give LA home court advantage, fine. I guess you put this at 5. I'm not really worried about the home court advantage. I don't think I give them a true 3, 3 points, 4 points like is normally given for that sort of home court advantage and how you factor that into the sides here. So I'm completely fine with any way that you played this, to be honest. Like, I do think this goes up if and kind of when I believe at least one of KP or Al Horford are ruled in this game. Like, at least one of them is playing in this one. I think they learned recently that they can get away with not playing either of them and still beat some bad teams. And obviously last night the Clippers would be constituted as that because it was their entire backups. But yeah, and it's interesting they're not going to be playing in the same building. I don't know how that's going to impact things. Where if you saw you're shooting in one night at Staples or whatever we're calling it now, and then the next night you're at Staples again because the Clippers don't have their own stadium, but now they do. So we'll see how that impacts things. I just thought that was an interesting little ripple as well. But keeping it on the West Coast in these late night games, let me go under 230.5 in a Chicago game. But I'm taking the under in Chicago and the Dubs here in Golden State. Golden State on the back-to-back. Heartbreaker last night versus the Kings. They were up double digits in the first half, and then they were up double digits in the third quarter again, and they still lost that game as the fourth quarter completely got away from them. So, as far as the legs go, I don't know. I mean, I imagine Steph is playing. If Steph's not playing, this is going to plummet, obviously, way down. We've also got Io and Kobe White questionable on the Bulls right now. And, I mean, the Bulls are so close to being teetering over into the sort of just blow it all up mode. We're waiting on it. But either way, for the Dubs, this offense is bad, man. They got Schroeder coming off the bench now with Gary Payton Jr. starting. We'll see if that's the case in this one as well. Kevon Looney went down last night, so you're probably going to see a bit more Trace Jackson Davis. Both of them keeping this thing pretty slow, to be honest. Obviously, Kevon Looney cement-footed, but 24th in pace for the Dubs over their last 10 with the 25th best worst, however you want to look at it, offensive rating in the league. And with Dennis Schroeder on the court, this offensive rating is still below 115. It's now back up to 111 after some decent play last night from the bench with Schroeder on it. But an offensive rating of 111 for the Dubs is not going to cut it with the way that they're playing with Schroeder out there. He was supposed to fix a lot of that stuff. They're just trying so many different lineups. We have Guy Santos minutes now. I don't even remember Post's first name, but he's a big backup white center who's been in the G League the whole time. He's playing legit backup center minutes right now. We're not going to have Kevon Looney tonight, or Draymond Green. So it's Trace Jackson Davis and Post. Not an actual Post, but his last name is Post. So I just thought it was funny. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with that down low. Vooch is probably going to eat a decent amount, but again, he's going to be shooting a lot. He's starting his offense on the top of the key, and that's where Trace Jackson Davis will have at least the advantage of being quick enough to put up a hand on his 3-pointer and then drop back down in the defensive rate as well. But yeah, I don't think that this Bulls team is equipped to take advantage of how bad this Dubs team is down low. They're still shooting the majority of their shots from three, and they're still looking to get the majority of their points off the fast break. That's the only thing the Dubs can do. Dubs can't guard down low. They're allowing as many free throws as you want to take, but the Bulls are 29th in free throw attempt rate in their last 10, and they're bottom 10 on the whole season. They've been playing a little bit slower as well. I do think Io and Kobe's absences have impacted them a ton. You're getting a lot more Jalen Smith, Pat Williams, and slightly bigger lineups as opposed to like 4 guard lineups now, because they have the versatility of Giddey and Io all in one lineup. Now you're looking at a lot more big men coming. Well, the 2 big men they have outside of Vooch, essentially, Jalen Smith and Pat Will, playing a few more minutes, also slowing things down a ton as well. And, really, if you're going to rely on fast break points against the Dubs, like I was saying, they are a top 10 fast break defense. They are going to get back a ton. Their guards are pretty much shooting from 3, so they've got 2 to 3 guys already making their way back. And they were crashing the offensive boards, but that's really just Looney and TJD and Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga. So now it's just like all that athleticism out of there. I just don't see them this being quite as much of an up and down affair.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers back it up. But how do you feel about this non-spread and just picking a winner? I mean, I would like to take the Warriors here, but they're 0-8 with a rest disadvantage, straight up. And a lot of that has to do with Steph just not playing, right? So, right. I mean, where do you think just take the Bulls here at +1?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that too, that like that has been pretty clearly stated by the Dubs that Steph is almost never going to play on a back-to-back. So I think we can probably use that information in this game. And if you wanted to take the Bulls as a result, I'm fine with it. I think it's going to be a pretty ugly game either way. But yeah, I think if there's any value or plus money on a Bulls cover with the money line, then probably worth it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you go that route once you see if Steph is officially out. But yeah, the numbers also do indicate under when you look at any of those short rest spots for the Dubs, because again, they don't have Steph and their offense is absolute doo-doo without him. So I'm gonna be bold here with my second pick. I'm gonna take the Mavericks at +13.5 with both teams on a back-to-back in OKC. Maybe you get it even higher because people will continue to bet OKC, but this has got to be the biggest spread for the Mavs in 5 years, maybe. I mean, it's just like, it's ridiculous to get this many points. I know they have not won many games lately, but they've been competitive enough. And the matchup against OKC is an interesting one. Like, it's not too dependent on Luka. It's dependent. They have all these wing defenders. So like SGA is amazing. He's going to do him. It's like we talk often with Giannis. He's going to get his 35 if he needs to. The rest of OKC's offense, not so much. Like, I mean, you look at last night where you had to shoot like 50 times to beat the Utah Jazz. The only way they've actually been able to cover against Dallas lately is hitting 23s. They actually hit 23s twice this season, both against Dallas, and then lost the second one. And that's just totally out of character for OKC. They average under 14 on the season. They're only taking 37 in January. Like they're and Isaiah Joe is sick. If he can't go or if he's not shooting well, like they just really don't have a ton of threats around SGA, which is how Dallas defended him in the playoffs, right? Is just to say, like, all right, you're going to get yours in the mid range. We're just going to turn the water off on everybody else. And they still have that defensive personnel. Even if Kyrie doesn't go here, I mean, that would certainly inflate this spread even more and make you a little nervous. But he did play last time he played on a back-to-back, right? He dropped 46. He did play on a back-to-back against OKC in November, and that was a damn close game because the Mavs bench played really well. And you got Clay, Najee, and Jaden Hardy sat out last night. They could play. The Mavs are 5-3 ATS on back-to-backs. We know OKC is amazing on back-to-backs, but how often are they covering this number? I mean, not necessarily. I mean, they do cover big spreads. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like OKC is overrated in any way. I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying the Mavs, like, and the one thing that concerns me is that they lost to the Mavs without SGA last week, right? And so it's a revenge spot here. I think the Mavs will be up for it too, though, to just like continue. This is a rivalry, met in the playoffs last year. We're tougher than you. Like we've rebounded you every time. Without Lively, you have to exploit us down low, and I don't think you can do that without Hartenstein. They're 2-4 ATS. Their last 6 without Hart. Obviously, no Chet. Jalen Williams, not the big Jalen Williams, just not cutting it. Yeah. And I know it's scary because they absolutely got revenge on the Cavs and blew them out. But I think the Mavs, they're just going to be a little bit more ready in this spot, and I think they can keep it within single digits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at all by any means. I can totally see where you're coming from. Like, if they're up for this game, I thought they were really impressive last night against Minnesota. Like, very, very impressive last night against Minnesota. I do think you get at least one guy back that didn't play yesterday. I do think there was an element to this. Like, Clay tweaked his ankle. I definitely think you're going to see him in this game. Unclear what his impact will be. They're not going to be afraid to trim his minutes if he's not hitting, essentially, and that's what he's out there for against a team that gives up a ton against the catch and shoot. So that would be where I'm looking to, is like, are they going to be able to get those shots off for the Mavs? If Kyrie is playing, then like, yeah, I don't think this should be 13.5 straight up. It just should not be. If Kyrie is not playing, it probably should be. But Kyrie's going to have to be doing his facilitating squirmy, wormy thing where he gets in and you all of a sudden lose him in the camera picture because he's slithering between dudes underneath, essentially. And all of a sudden he's just popping up at the rim or kicking it back out. I think that's going to have to be the offense for this team against them. But yeah, Jay Will ain't covering it, by the way, either. And J Dub is a little bit banged up also, was a threat to not play last night. There's a possibility that he doesn't play today. There's a possibility Kyrie doesn't play today as well. So obviously this is predicated on Kyrie playing. I'm only saying there's a possibility because it's the NBA in January, not because I've seen anything pop up on the injury report, but just be aware of things going on throughout the day today with so many teams out of back-to-back. But let me close out best bets here with Milwaukee's team total going over for the Bucks, 115.5. The extra rested Bucks after they did not play in New Orleans yesterday, which had like 2 different bets for us in that game. But either way, we'll move on to this Miami game. Look, I should be taking the Bucks to cover against Miami. This Miami team is terrible at this point, and Jimmy's not coming back. And even if he was, the version of Jimmy that we remember is not coming back. I'm just scared because it's Miami, and I'm scared, and they shouldn't win this game, and they shouldn't cover it, and that's probably why they will cover it. So I'm staying away from that. But I still think it's going to be because they're able to score against this Bucks team who has gone pretty far into the offensive juggernaut side of things and a lot less on the let's worry about our defense side of things as of late. And I think that'll help overall keep the pace up as well as keep up sort of the offense for both sides, especially for Milwaukee to keep them scoring. I just don't know if Miami's coming along for the ride entirely, in which case it would be a pretty nice win for Milwaukee, but I would say they've got their groove back on offense, 7-3 in their last 10 straight up, 8th in pace, 7th in offensive rating. I probably should give them a bit more credit. 7th in defensive rating as well. I mean, it hasn't been the toughest schedule, but I think at least seeing the ball go through the net for this team over the course of their last 10 has been massive for them as they go up. Yeah, it's been the eighth easiest schedule over that course of that time frame, where do you put the Heat right now in terms of best teams in the NBA? Bottom half of the league. So I don't think it's like they've been playing way better or worse competition that they're going to face in this one for Miami. So if you look at the free throw stuff, that's going to be huge for them. Miami has been decent limiting free throws. Khalil Ware, though, has come in and been a lot more active on the rookie side of things. Love him. Took him for a 20-plus point alt line the other night, knowing that the Heat were starting him now alongside Bam. That's actually just increasing their offense, to be honest. Like, he's a very good rebounder, but he's an out-of-position defender consistently, and we'll monitor that. But they're third in points at the rim are the Bucks, and this Miami team not defending the rim nearly as well as they were last season. In fact, in their last 7 games, they are 27th in defensive rating. And one thing to note here, I don't like to bank on this, but Chris Middleton's out there, so is Dame Lillard, which means you're going to be getting plenty of mid-range as well. And actually, I should be throwing Giannis out there, who has also been in the top 10 in mid-range frequency this season and has hit a good amount of them. This is far and away his best shooting season from further away from the basket. Finally using that to open things up for them as well. And yeah, Miami struggling to guard that mid-range, struggling to guard the specifically the rim, although the paint has been a problem. They have been letting guys get into the I mixed that up. They've been struggling specifically in the paint, not necessarily right at the rim, but when you've got Giannis, Brolo, and even Dame attacking that rim, I'm going to feel pretty good about them, and they're getting into the paint a ton. And that's where the Heat were much better last season, was limiting people from getting into the paint. They're now bottom half of the league in terms of paint frequency against them. So if those guys are living in the paint, and then you've got Brolo keeping that space clear outside, we know that he's going to be able to hit some threes against this team, then yeah, I don't like Miami's chances at all, but I love the ability for Milwaukee to score against them.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind over for the game here because I think Miami will be a little bit more fluid now that Jimmy's just officially out.
Yeah.
And Tyler Hero kind of cooking against Dame, setting everything up. Khalil Ware, it is full Khalil Ware season. I expect him to be on the receiving end of some lobs from Hero as they kind of roast that pick and roll. But yeah, it's the same situation I talk about with the Celtics a little bit. Is right, the Bucks have been 4 games since an embarrassment, since giving up 140, getting absolutely smacked. And they have rolled past this team total. They are just very sharp, very low turnover rate, getting good shots, and now they're extra rested here after not playing Enola. So definitely expect them to come out and do their part.
Yeah, 100%. The Bucks are finding their groove with Middleton playing the sort of 25 minutes that he's playing every night. They've really got their rotations down. Andre Jackson Jr. is sort of out of it as well. That's another big thing here, is we've seen a lot less Andre Jackson Jr. and a lot more shooters around these guys, including Gary Trent and AJ Green, who I don't think Green's making this one, but everybody else stands. So that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets, though. Continue to follow along and check out the other episode we have up every day with you guys, the Player Props episode. And until we see you next, happy betting.